Hello, hello. We have a new chapter of Boku no Hero Academia. This is chapter 290. I have kind of like a meta spoiler, pseudo spoiler about this chapter, which is that on a Discord server I'm in, there's been a lot of conversation about it, all within spoiler tags, which is good. Thank you for that. But just the fact that people are freaking out this much, that a channel that has never discussed this series before has gone out of its way because of this particular chapter. Something crazy, I'm sure, happens in here, and I cannot wait to find out what. Okay, this is chapter 290. It's called Dabi's Dance. Okay, hard to read. Dabi is Todoroki's brother. But the number of spoiler tags and the title. That's my hard read. Maybe not even such a hard read. Okay. So, they're trying to evacuate the hospital that Gigantomachia is charging towards. Todoroki's mother is in this hospital. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Oh, I almost feel bad. I just kind of squandered a big surprise, but I don't know. That's something that I had always believed. I thought that was going to be a twist that they would unveil at some point, given that Todoroki had the missing brother, and Dabi had this weird backstory. Dabi has fire powers. It made a lot of sense, and I think it's going to be a very powerful, well done twist. Okay, the TV channel, the news gets cut out by a pirate broadcast showing Dabi himself. Okay, meanwhile, so it's not like this chapter is just going to focus on that, it seems. We also have the fight of Uravity, whose real name I forgot, and someone pointed out that I've been saying her name wrong the entire time. But I don't remember what her real name is fighting Toga. I don't know if we're going to get more of that as well. To a beating, a one-for-all beating from Izuku Midoriya, and a roasting from Endeavor, Tomura's body could fail at any moment. Having rivet stabs, so this is that weird quirk with these angular blade-like protrusions that's quite terrifying. Auto-tracking reduces the burden placed on his body and mind. So he's basically like a neurological puppet. That this quirk is very precisely like moving him around just using his spinal cord, that the rest of his body can just kind of go limp, I think. Makia must be ordered to retreat. Okay. Alright. Todoroki, though, has not got the memo that this part of the fight is over. He's jumping in immediately. I'm gonna take down Shigaragi since he's already on his last legs. Surge and half cold, half hot. Fuse to give our body the slightest reprieve. Yeah, this is a pretty powerful lineup. One of the big three. Perhaps still overall the strongest person in 1A. Like, Midoriya, of course, has his moments. When the plot demands that he has the ability to go 100% smash and stuff. But in terms of just kind of like overall consistent fighting prowess, you might have to still hand it to Todoroki. Another brutal attack. A brutal attack. And it's not like this is doing nothing. It's not like we're in a scenario of like, oh, the villain is so overwhelmingly powerful that he just scoffs and laughs off such attacks. But no. They're actually just annihilating his body. And it's only through a magical sequence of quirks that he's able to keep moving. Then Gigantomachia pops in. This is a really amazing shot. I was praising before just the number of different ways they've been depicting the scale of Gigantomachia. Showing him emerging from the mountains, knocking down trees, knocking down buildings. And it's all for the impact of scenes like this, where you already have a very good sense of the scale of him, and then you put him in the context of a whole bunch of other characters, beloved characters that you're concerned about. And you see just how overwhelmingly huge his attacks are. Ooh, Bakugao, alright. Conscious. His vitals have been hit. Talking about absolute victory. I think it's a little late for that. You can aim for victory. I don't know about absolute. But doesn't it kind of look like Gigantomachia just smacked Shigaraki as well? Am I crazy? Doesn't look like that was the gentlest way to grab him. It's my command, so give me an order. Spinner freaks out. You're not looking so hot. My fault, and that giant is up and about. To take him down, what are his abilities? Figure them out and strike back. One of my lungs is shot. How hard can I even hit when every breath I take is agony? One of his lungs is shot. What a disturbing thing to say so matter-of-factly about your own body. So, oops. That's one down. Alright, lefty. Gotta do double duty now. Okay. Alright. And then up on there is Dabby. So Dabby is not doing a live broadcast from the hospital into the hospital. It's not really clear if he's taken over the entire news channel, if everyone is seeing this footage, or if specifically Todoroki's mom is seeing it, maybe just the hospital is seeing it. But at any rate, it's all pre-recorded. He's just chilling out on there. And yes, he sees Endeavor. He sees Shoto. Is that any way to address me? Your son? Yeah, I would be shocked if there's not another twist like this. Ah, yes. Yes. Pretty good. Pretty terrifying. Just because he's been such a threat, such an abomination, this entity within the League of Villains. And again, I keep returning to this, that they've done a really excellent job making it so all of these different characters in the League of Villains, whom at first you might think are just like flunkies, runners-up, maybe they'll get a battle in some arc, but not really that important. That in a different context, when you kind of evaluate them in a different light, you're like, oh, this is actually a uniquely significant threat. This is the guy that took down Hawks. It seems like his power level is just like astronomically high. Sure, he doesn't have like some crazy nuke-like ability like Twice or Toga, but in terms of fighting strength, like it's unclear where to tier him even against like, Gigantomachia or Shigaraki, right? Like, who knows? He could be that one-man army kind of potential. So he's that sort of entity, kind of almost too terrifying to comprehend when considering the League of Villains' power. And then you find out he's your friggin' son. / brother. Your older brother, Toya. I am Toya Todoroki, the eldest son of Endeavor. To date, I've killed over 30 people in cold blood. Today, I'd like everyone to know exactly what drove me to such despicable acts. Okay. So the way he's saying this makes it seem like everyone is getting this message. Maybe this is the result of that media expert guy that they've picked up from the Meta Abilities Liberation Front. Able to hack whatever. Okay. This is pretty amazing. Because this, of course, could get Endeavor, cancelled. To find out that he was doing this bizarre quirk eugenics experiment, having children solely for the purpose of trying to get the ice-fire quirk, which, of course, finally manifested in Todoroki. This is an ideological attack that could be just as significant as the actual attack on All Might in terms of just de-establishing such a major power for the hero's side. Once upon a time, Endeavor yearned for nothing but power, but when he found himself unable to surpass All Might, he despaired. That's why my father created me in pursuit of his selfish, egotistical dreams. Who's even watching this, though, to be honest? I don't know. I find this, the contrast of the dialogue in these shots to be really confusing. Because it's showing the devastation of Gigantomachia, which is, in some ways, Dabby's own devastation. It's unclear whether or not they would have been able to, win the war with the Meta Liberation Army and get Gigantomachia on their side and all of that, were it not for Dabi's presence. And all of these people, they're out here like saving their loved ones and trying to get the shelter and cleaning up dead bodies. It's really harrowing and devastating. Do they really care about the backstory of Dabi right now? Do they really care about this scandal with Endeavor? I genuinely don't know. But it eerily mirrors a lot of like real life political situations, right? Where something like horrible has happened, something, a natural disaster or a pandemic or whatever, and you see people focusing on what seems to be, of course, totally legitimate grievances, totally legitimate issues that certainly do need to be addressed, but there's a sense of like a total lack of perspective, perhaps, that you can't assume people will care. Okay, anyways, moving on. I don't know how people are taking this news. I don't know who cares. Who's even watching TV right now? We know that Todoroki's mom is. That's probably the most important person to see this. To concoct even stronger quirks, my father forced the woman who would become my mother to marry him. But alas, I was a failed creation. It didn't take him long for him to reject me. Here we see some kids. They kind of look like hero otaku. They have hero posters on their wall. We see one that says End, probably Endeavor, and a figure behind them, probably also Endeavor. So, yeah, I don't know. But again, it's like, if I was watching the news and it was showing me just entire cities getting toppled by a gigantic monster man, and then it cuts to some weird-looking guy telling me that he's Todoroki, or he's Endeavor's son, I kind of be like, can we go back to the devastation? I don't care about this right now. I'm not saying that everyone has to be pure and selfless, just you. These murderous flames of mine are Endeavor's flames. Guess what? Right now my pre-recorded story is being broadcast nationwide and on the net. So there's Hackerman doing it, yeah. How could I make you hurt? How best to stomp all over your life? Been pondering this ever since that day. Couldn't figure out why I even existed, and every day I'd crawl to Natsu crying my eyes out. I bet you ever knew, right? You finally achieved success with your little puppet Shoto. I thought killing him might do the trick. But then, who would have guessed you got bumped up to number 1? Suddenly I was rooting for your happiness. My blood ran cold when I thought you might bite the big one in Kyushu. Then I led Star Servant and Ending straight to you, one after another. Finally number 1. It's all you'd ever wanted, but it must have weighed on you, right? It was all the praise and admiration like chicken soup for your soul. Very strange phrasing in translation here. I'm very curious what the original Japanese was, but whatever. When at long last you could stare your kids in the eye, did you finally start to feel the warm and fuzzy bonds of family? You must have thought, as long as I can face the future, I can be better. This is kind of disturbingly accurate. Because they did have that whole kind of, uncomfortable, shockingly kind of heavy and down-to-earth saga. Saga is an exaggeration. A couple chapters of going back for dinner at the Endeavor household and him trying to face his children, trying to make good. So to know that all of that was being orchestrated, that all of those scenarios that pushed him to these revelations were all being just the manipulations of Dabi. And not only that he was doing so entirely just to give Endeavor a false sense of progress and hope, to make Endeavor feel good about himself, just so he could tear it away all the more. This to me is the real twist that Dabi's machinations had been going on for so long. Not that he's, Todoroki's brother, like that's not a surprise to me at all. But yeah, and that this is happening in the middle of like another entire arc that's already happening, that already has like some of the most climactic, important battles of the entire series so far. That we're putting this extra little bit of spice on top. it's kind of wild. It's I'm very surprised that it's happening now, I guess. The past never dies. Because they really did think he was dead, right? Is my understanding. But here he is. He's an international terrorist threat. Get it? You reap what you sow. So let's tango, you and me, Enji Todoroki, and dance with your son here in hell. Alright. Woof. Woof. Heavy stuff. Intense stuff. I don't know. I called it so quickly. But I don't think that part was the surprise, really. Like, I think it's much more about the machinations behind the scenes. The cruelty. That is quite the cruel move. To give him so much hope just to make it more powerful. Like, imagine Endeavor was still, like, depressed and embittered. He's like, surprise, I'm your son. He's like, I knew I'm such a piece of shit. Yeah, all right, of course my son would become a villain. But no, instead he was actually kind of feeling good about himself as a father. Actually kind of feeling like, hey, maybe, I got my sons working for me at my agency. I've been #1 hero for a while now. Things are kind of stable. I'm handling this sudden war against this multi-pronged assault on the villains. I'm leading that up. It's going okay. But no, just kidding. You are still a piece of shit. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Bye for now.